I'm here with USWNT legend Carly Lloyd on behalf of Frito-Lay. And Carly, first to get started, I would love to know more about your partnership with Frito-Lay and how your upcoming TV spot came together.
Well, good to be chatting with you. So this year's spot, which I was thrilled to be part of because it's a really awesome spot, and I think it's going to capture a lot of people's attentions when they've got their TV on and they're tuning in for the World Cup or just happen to be watching something else. So the spot's Taste of Greatness. I basically get to play an animated version of myself, which is created using like a 3D body scanning technology. And so it's a game with some incredible soccer players, past, present, legends. And we're, our colors of our uniform are the chips, the Frito-Lay chip colors. And so I was green, which is the pop Corners sea salt flavor, which I like myself as well. And I'm also playing a broadcaster. So I'm a broadcaster in the beginning of a bit, which is, correlates to my spot that I'm going to be for the next 6 weeks at the Women's World Cup, working for Fox Sports as a studio analyst. And then, I'm this 3D animated, version of a soccer player. So I think, what I love about this is the first time I've really been part of a spot that kind of bridges all, generations of players, players like Mia Hamm, Brandy Chastain. I've obviously played with Abby Wambach. I didn't get to play with Marta or with Christine Sinclair, but I've played many times against them. And then, obviously Mallory Swanson, Julie Ertz, tons of former players, Brianna Scurry, Crystal Dunn. So yeah, it's just a cool little spot that just bridges all of these players together. And, I think it just speaks volumes to how far the game has come, the growth, the history of the women's soccer. It's just inspiring other future generations of girls to dream big. And I think we can't forget how far the game has come, and that is due to the former players that have just continued to pass on all of their values and what they did for the game and how great they were. So yeah, it's really, really exciting spot. I think there's going to be a lot of people that really love to see it.
And you mentioned in the spot, you're playing and you appear as an announcer, and you are going to be working, at doing analyst work in this upcoming Women's World Cup. How have you managed to, thread that needle and move from the pitch to being on the other side of the microphone? Like, how do you sort of, knowing these women so well, how do you sort of, balance your criticism and learn from what it was like to be on the other side of that mic?
Well, I think, yeah, it's a balance. It's, I'm not there to, criticize a bad pass or, something, a missed opportunity or a missed shot. I mean, that's all part of the game. We've all made mistakes. We've all missed opportunities. I think what I bring is the mindset into a player of being at these events, and perhaps, if a team's going down, what's the mindset, what's the thinking process that's coming from players. And, when I see teams or, players maybe not performing at the level that they can perform, I mean, of course, it's going to be something that's going to be talked about. Maybe the US don't come out as electrifying in the opening game. Maybe there's nerves. There's 14 players out of the 23 that have never played in a World Cup final. There's going to be nerves. There's going to be moments where, we're going to be a little nervous. And that's okay. And, I think that's the beauty of what I'm going to be bringing, as well as several other people that will be on the desk with me. Heather Riley, who's experienced it, Karina LeBlanc, we've all experienced those moments. So it's for me about always being me, always being honest, fair. I think that I've been out of the game, long enough to be able to just give an honest assessment. And that's what viewers want to see. I'm not going to just say what everybody, perhaps wants to hear. I think I've always been somebody that's been, true to myself and been honest. And sometimes people don't like the honesty, but I think that, that's going to be the beauty of, seeing this World Cup unfold. And, it doesn't matter where you start a World Cup, because every World Cup that I've been a part of has started off, differently and ended differently. And, sometimes there's going to be some scrappy games where you just have to get a result, and that is perfectly fine, because then you're moving on to the next round. So it doesn't always have to be pretty and perfect. And I'm just going to bring my experiences and things that I see that maybe the casual fan doesn't see, and have some fun with it.
Have you tried to play a mentorship role at all with the USWNT heading into this year's World Cup, like you said, to try to transition that winning mentality? Or have you mostly just, stood back and tried to let things play out in the locker room?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not involved in any capacity with the team. My mentorship and my leadership was done while I was playing, giving it everything I have, every single game, trying to be the most hardest working player on the fields, during practices, during games. And so those players that have played with me, that are still currently on the roster, hopefully I've left my mark, because that was ultimately, what I just strived to do. And the players that I didn't have the opportunity to play with, are learning from others within the squad. But I think, there's still a couple of players that have, been immersed in that U.S. women's national team culture of mentality, and that DNA that is just festered from generation to generation, that are still there, that can provide that. Kelly O'Hara, she bleeds that. I mean, she would run through a brick wall. You've got Julie Ertz, who, is the epitome of that. And so there's players there that can help the younger players, and that blend is going to be key for sure.
Yeah, I spoke to Julie Ertz a couple weeks back, and it was when the roster wasn't finalized yet. And obviously now she has made the club. How much do you think her inclusion is going to help the team, and also help the team with that hole that losing Becky Sauerbrunn creates?
Well, I think that it's become even more crucial, especially with Becky Sauerbrunn. I think, this is perhaps the first roster where we may see a lot of interchanging going on within positions. You've got, the front three that can spread across, those three spots. You don't have a like for like sub, I guess you could say, for Alex Morgan. I would imagine that she's not going to play every single minute of every game. So I think we're going to see some flexibility up top. And then, with Julie Ertz, obviously crucial. We know that Julie's been training, she's been playing in games, and I have no doubt with Julie's heart and will and mentality and all that. But, how is she going to be in games? I think that that's still going to be determined, and no one knows. I don't even think Julie knows. She's going to just do everything possible to get herself ready and fit and sharp. But with Rose Lavelle being injured, kind of heading into this, I think there's a bit of a question mark with her. So I think that we can see Julie, in the midfield. But now, we may see Julie, depending on how things go, more in that center back position, especially with Becky Sauerbrunn out. And I think aside from Kelly O'Hara and Crystal Dunn, there is some inexperience going on that back line. And Julie can obviously provide that leadership and just that commanding presence that she has in the center of the park. So I think game to game, it's going to be sort of a game time decision that Vlatko may roll out, totally different lineups. In the past, we've had, similar lineups being rolled out and players just plugging into their respective positions. We could even see Crystal Dunn in the midfield. I just don't think that Blacko and Onoski's ruling anything out at this moment.
Switching gears just a little bit before we wrap, I read that you are sort of a local coffee fiend and you love finding local spots wherever you travel. I also like to do that. I know it's hard to pick one, but what's your favorite that you maybe stumbled into recently during your travels?
You know what? I stopped drinking coffee from like February and I just kind of picked it up. I was giving
Yeah.
myself a little caffeine detox. The first week of the intense headache was a little tricky, but I powered through and then a couple weeks of kind of feeling a little sluggish. And I've just kind of went with it. And honestly, I felt really good without having coffee. I'm usually just 1 cup a day, either black coffee or a little cappuccino with some oat milk. But now that I've picked it back up again, going to Sydney, I'm hearing the coffee's really good there. So it's going to be, tempting, but we usually get coffee. I order coffee from Two Guns, which is out in California. When we would train out there, we would, go to that coffee place. I've got a couple local coffee places here, but I usually just make it in my house and try different beans. But I do like, trying out different coffee shops. So I'm sure I'll get to experience that in Sydney.
Good to hear that you're recovering from that initial withdrawal a little bit. Here on behalf of Frito-Lay, you've got this incredible team put together for the spot. Of those players in the spot, who do you want taking that final PK? You, Brandy, I mean, game on the line. Who's taking that kick?
I mean, of course, yeah. I mean, I would be up for it. I think that's, the mentality of, kind of having that champion mentality. But I mean, you look at everybody in this moment, in this spot. I mean, I'm sure Mia would want it, Abby, Brandy, Marta, Sinclair. I mean, I just think, yeah, not so sure Julie would maybe want to step up. Or Crystal. I mean, Mal, I think they've all taken PKs in their time, but yeah, I think there's several players that would step up and take it.
Well, Carly Lloyd, thank you so much for joining me, and we're excited to watch your commentary and the Women's World Cup coming up this month.
Appreciate it. Good chatting.